Thank you, Tim. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for taking your time to join us for this session. And also thank you to Tim from Yes Education for organizing this webinar. So as Tim has mentioned, I'm Desmond Wong. I am the Regional Manager for Southeast Asia at ACU. And I'll also like to take this opportunity to also introduce some of our team members who are based in Southeast Asia. So first of all, you can see on the panel, we have Sonia Duan, who's our country manager Vietnam, based in Ho Chi Minh City. And then we'll also have Jacqueline Milado, our country manager Philippines, based in Manila. So yeah, so we have a good team there in Southeast Asia. So yeah, so we look forward to sharing with you information about ACU and looking forward to any questions you might have. So what I'll do is I'll share my slides and then we it. Okay. So Tim, just to confirm, everyone can see the slides?
Yes, we can definitely see the slides.
Okay, great, excellent. Okay, so let's make a start. So yes, so myself, Sonia and Jacqueline were from the ACU Global Engagement Team. So like I said, Sonia and Jackie, they're based in Vietnam and Philippines respectively. For myself, I'm based in the Melbourne campus of ACU. So for this slide, we'll cover a wide range of topics, obviously from talking about ACU, where we've come from, our courses, our campuses, our student support, our programs, accommodations, and scholarships. So it'll be quite a comprehensive presentation. So I guess before we start with anything, it's always worthwhile to look back at the history of ACU. So an interesting fact, ACU, we are one of the oldest education providers here in Australia. So the origins of ACU actually goes all the way back to the mid 1800s. So we have been an education institution for well over 150, 160 plus years. So we did not commence as a university from the very beginning, but in that period, the Catholic Church here in Australia decided to establish several colleges that primarily focused on training teachers and nurses who would then go and work at the Catholic schools and the Catholic hospitals here in Australia. So that's basically how ACU started from the very beginning. So these colleges were established in many different cities and also towns, regional towns throughout Australia, including in Brisbane, Sydney, Ballarat, Canberra, and even in Melbourne. And then only in 1991, ACU actually became formally a university. So these colleges merged and we officially became one of the 40 public universities here in Australia. Now, a very important thing to note is that even though we are a Catholic university, but we are also a public university. So what that means is that we're open to all students. So we are not the case where students have to be Catholic in order to come and study at ACU. We're open to all students from all faiths, all beliefs, and all backgrounds because we're a public university. So at ACU, we are considered a young university. So during that 30-year period where since we became a university, we are one of the fastest growing universities here in Australia. And as we go forward in terms of our future, we have also established ourselves as a very strong reputation as a university when it comes to research as well. So this is basically a timeline of ACU. So, having mentioned that obviously ACU, with the origins of ACU and having different campuses set up in different locations, we are a multi-campus university as well. So this is actually one of the unique selling points of ACU. So as you can see on this slide, we have 7 campuses in Australia. So we have, I'll start off in Melbourne, I guess, where I'm based. So here in Victoria, the state of Victoria, we have a Melbourne campus, and we also have our Ballarat campus. So Ballarat, for those who are not aware where it is, it's a regional town in Victoria, about 1.5 hours from Melbourne. In New South Wales, we've got 3 campuses at the moment. So we have North Sydney, Blacktown, and Strathfield. We also have a campus in Canberra, and we have a campus in Brisbane. So if you're keen to check out the campuses, feel free to scan the QR code. So as we go through the slides, you will see there are QR codes there that you can scan, and that will take you to our website with further information as well, and videos and things like that. But you can also see some of the images here of the different campuses. So for us at ACU, we are very, very proud that we are a multi-campus university. And when we say being a multi-campus university, each of the campuses that we have are actual university campuses. They are not a study center, where it's just, in an office building across a few floors. Each of our campuses are actual university campuses with many buildings, with full learning facilities, full services and support for our students. So when the students come and study ACU, regardless of the campus, they will get the full university experience. Now, that is, I think, a very, very important point to remember. We also have one international campus based overseas in Rome. So with our Rome campus, again, this is a very unique selling point. It's not a campus where our students will go there to study a full degree program. However, there are opportunities for all of our students, including international students, if they want to have a short term, like a few weeks, study experience in the Rome campus, they can do that. Or they could go on a study tour program, and they could be based at the Rome campus. So I'll talk a little bit more and explain a little bit more about that later in the slides. But as you can see, we have multiple campuses, and the good thing for students is they can actually choose which campus they want to be based at, or which campus they do want to have their studies. It is important to note, though, that all the different campuses do have variations in the courses that they offer. So some courses, like our big programs like nursing, it's offered across most of the campuses. But for some courses which are a bit more specific, for example, for IT, it's only in certain campuses. So for the case of IT, it's only in our Sydney campus. So being a multi-campus university, students do have the opportunity, if they need to, put in requests for campus transfers and things like that. So that is possible. But of course, there are still terms and conditions which the student must meet in order to have that sort of transfer approval approved for the campus transfer request. So that's about our campuses. So here are some stats and figures about ACU. So at ACU, we have over 32,000 students. So we are a large university with a large student population. In terms of international student numbers, it's roughly about 1 in 8 students are international students. And I think this is, again, another very important point to remember. So we only roughly have about 14%, so 14% international students at ACU. So when you compare that to some of the other universities, we actually have quite a low percentage of international students. Now, that is important because when the students come and study in Australia, when they choose a university, it's very important that they get to have that Australian university experience, that they have the opportunity to make friends with local students, to interact and to mingle with local students. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of sending students to study in Australia when they're only going to end up in the classroom with other international students. So that's something very important to remember as well. In terms of our international students and where they're coming from, we have a very diverse cohort of international students from over 90 different countries. And as you can see from our top 10 source countries for international students, quite a few market from Southeast Asia is featured in there. So you can see Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. But we also, of course, have students from other regions of the world, from South Asia, from Africa, and even from the USA as well. You can also see the breakdown of where our students tend to want to study. So for our international students, it's fairly even between New South Wales and Victoria, of course, and then but also there are those who choose to study in Queensland or ACT. Across the faculties, you can see the breakdown. So a big majority of our international students are enrolled in our health sciences faculty, followed very evenly by both law and business faculty and the education and arts faculty. And we do have our own pathway programs as well. And again, I will talk about all those things in the later slides. So yeah, so again, this will just give you a bit more, I guess, of an image of the breakdown of where our international students tend to come from. So if we look at continent-wise, of course, the vast majority of our students generally come from Asia, but we do have also a percentage of students coming from Africa and the Middle East, the Americas, and also from Europe. But as you can see here, I think this is what's important too, is for students when they come and study, some of them, they want to consider what are the benefits they will get at the end. So what are the career outcomes that they will gain? For example, if they plan to stay on and to work in Australia. So as you can see, we have a very high overall employment rate for our students that graduate from ACU, a 95% overall employment rate. And if you look at the median starting salary of our graduates at ACU, it's around $70,000 for our undergraduate students and around $94,000 for our postgraduate students. So these are all really great career outcomes that our students can achieve when they finish their studies at ACU. These couple of slides, the next few slides will talk about our rankings and our reputation. So for ACU, we are ranked in the top 2% of universities worldwide. For the young universities ranking, we are in the top 100 young universities in the world. We are first in Australia when it comes to graduates' collaborative skills, and we have also been recognized with 5 stars postgraduate employment for our students as well. So some really proud and strong recognition there for ACU. In terms of our subject areas, of course, we do perform very strongly, particularly in the areas of theology, divinity, and religious studies. But the other areas are particularly for nursing and education. So for nursing, we're 4th in Australia. For education, we're 2nd in Australia. For other areas like sports and exercise science, we're in the top 100 worldwide. And for psychology, we're in the top 150 in the world. So a lot of these subjects where we have really good, strong reputation are also courses, of course, which are very popular with our international students that choose to study at ACU. We do have a very global outlook. So for us, we do have a vast network of international partner universities across the world. So again, there are many overseas study opportunities, even for international students. Whilst they're studying at ACU, they could go on exchange or they could go on study abroad programs where they can experience a different study environment once again. So all these options are open for our international students as well. Just keep that in mind. So to kind of sum up what I've been talking about so far in the slides, some of the reasons to consider ACU. You can see that we have a very strong employment rate with very strong salary earning for our students. A big reason behind that is that our courses have a great balance between the practical skills that the students will learn during their course, and of course, the theory and the knowledge that we give the students in the classroom. So it's a very well balanced program. So as much opportunity as we can, we make sure our students have hands-on experience during the time they're studying the course, whether it is through internships, placements, um, community engagement activities, or volunteering experience as well. So students always have that opportunity to put what they've learned into practice. So that's very, very important. We have a very global outlook. That's why we highly encourage our students to consider having some kind of additional overseas study experience if they wish to do so. It's not compulsory, but it's there for them. So that's through our Rome campus, or if they want to go and have some kind of short-term study experience with our partner universities, it's also available. For our university, the campuses that we have, even though we have over 32,000 students, which is a significant student population, but you got to remember it's 32,000 students spread across 7 campuses. So each campus has their own community, their own support system, and students will feel like it's really truly their home. They're connected to the campus, they're connected to the university. They're not a student amongst 32,000 students in the one campus. So each campus has their own community, and we look out for one another. And we know the students, particularly the international students, for example, like myself, when orientation comes around at the start of the semester, I get to meet the students, I get to say hi to them, they know me. So it's a very approachable, friendly, and supportive community that we have on each one of the campuses. For us in our degree courses, when students come and study with us, we want to make sure that they're not just gaining a qualification. We also want to make sure that they can also have their own personal development, that they'll develop a sense of community, or a sense of empathy for others, so that when they finish or when they graduate, they have this knowledge. They can also find a way to kind of help others and to make an impact upon other people or the communities where they choose to build their careers or they wish to live in afterwards. So for us, it's not only about teaching the students, but also we want to make sure that they can have growth and development personally as well when they're studying here with us at ACU. We do have lots of pathway options as well for students if they are not able to gain direct entry into a degree program. I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. But overall, this gives you a sense of what ACU is about. So if we look at the faculty, so I won't go through all the courses that we offer at ACU, but to break it down, essentially ACU has 4 faculties. We have a faculty of law and business, which covers business, IT courses, law, and also criminology. We have a faculty of education and arts. So we have programs in visual arts and design, creative arts, global studies, international development, humanities, education and teaching, youth work, community development. We have a faculty of health sciences. So we have courses in allied health, which are like physiotherapy, occupational therapy, social work, speech pathology. We have nursing, of course, nutrition, biomedical science, psychology, public health, sports and exercise science. And of course, we have our faculty of theology and philosophy, where we cover these 2 areas in theology and philosophy as well. So in general, these are the courses that we have at ACU, and these are the focuses that we have in terms of our specializations at ACU. At the moment, in terms of scholarships, we've got 2 main scholarships available for international students. So one is a merit-based scholarship for high achieving students, high academic achieving students, and the other one is a scholarships, accommodation scholarship. So just to explain how the scholarships work. So for the merit-based scholarship, the one that we have is the ACU International Student Scholarship. So for this particular scholarship, the value of the scholarship is worth 50% of the student's tuition fee for the duration of the course they will study at ACU. But for this scholarship, it can be competitive. So there are only 20 places every year. So 20, 20, only 20 places for international students every year. It's only for students who are applying to study a degree program. So it has to be either a bachelor's and undergraduate degree, or for example, postgraduate, like a master degree program. So students have to demonstrate or they have to show that they have at least 80% GPA, so the average result. If they're still currently studying a degree or a course, the current GPA must be at least 80%. Or if they have already completed their studies, so they have to show the GPA they have for that particular qualification or the study they've completed is at least 80% as well or higher. If they have the 80% or higher GPA, then they can try and apply for this scholarship. It will go through a selection process, but if they get selected as a recipient for this scholarship, what it means is that for the duration of their course, they will receive 50% every semester as a scholarship whilst they're with us here at ACU. But one of the key things that the students have to remember is they have to make sure they maintain about a 60%, so roughly a credit average during the time that they're studying with us at ACU. So this is how that scholarship works. And the students have to apply online for this scholarship as well. So they do need to have an ACU offer letter. They do not need to accept the offer letter, but at least have an ACU offer letter. And then they need to apply online for this scholarship. The next scholarship with the student accommodation scholarship. So if a student is looking at staying at an ACU accommodation. So at ACU, we have our own accommodation in Brisbane, in Sydney, also in Canberra and in Ballarat. So if a student is looking to stay at one of the ACU provider accommodations, they can try and apply for this scholarship. If they get selected, they will receive like a 20% remission of their accommodation fees for 12 months. So basically a 20% discount for their accommodation fees with ACU for 12 months. So for this, the student will have to write a statement. If you look on our scholarship website, it'll give you the specific requirements and the terms and conditions. So the students have to make sure they do that. So it's more based on the statement that the student provides. Whereas the first one, the 50%, that's purely merit. So purely based on the student's academic performance. So these are the two current scholarships. The thing to remember with scholarship is that there could always be new scholarships coming up. So keep a close eye on ACU's website. So again, we have the QR code there you can scan to go directly to the ACU website, because whenever we do have new scholarships, we do always publish that on our website, and it's there for the public to see. So it's all there. Another important thing I want to talk a little bit about is just in terms of our student support services for our students. So I think at ACU, we provide a very high level of support for our students. And again, that's our point of differentiation compared to other universities. So you can see here, we have a very holistic approach towards how we look after our students. On each of our campuses, we have a dedicated international student advisor. So we call them the ISA. They're basically the first point of contact for any international student if they have any issues at all. If they have a question, they have a problem, they have an issue, the first point of contact is to go and get in touch with our ISA. The ISA, of course, if they can resolve the problem, they'll help the student with the issue and get the problem resolved. If it's a bigger problem which requires input or assistance from other services or other departments or from faculties, That's where the ISS can guide the student and tell them and work it through with them to tell them what they need to do or to refer them onto the right people that will help to resolve the issue or the problem. So that's the first point. Um, and then we also have disability support services. So if there are any students with special needs, because they may have some disability, so we do have disability support services on each of our campuses so that they can look after the student, make the necessary arrangements for the student so that, there are no impact on their study. So that's another very important thing. We also have career planning services as well. So we have careers advisors that are available for consultation with our students that can help our students, for example, for most international students, when they come and study, one of the first things on their mind is they're thinking about, looking for a part-time job. So how the career planning services can help, for example, is they can help particularly the students if they need to prepare and write up a resume. Our career planning services team can help the student with that. Or if a student it will be going for an interview, again, we have tools and support that will help the student to best prepare them to go to attend or to go for an interview. Or if they just need a sense of direction as to where they can go to look for job opportunities and things like that. Again, our career planning services team can help these students to guide them or to show them the right way to do it, or to point them in the right direction. So all this is very, very important. Another thing that we do have on campus as well is called student jobs on campus. So what happens is on each of the campuses, so if any department or the faculty, they have some part-time jobs, for example, some simple admin jobs or data entry jobs, where they need someone to fill in that role rather than them or us going out to recruit people from outside externally to fill in these jobs. We would actually advertise these jobs to our students where our students can actually go and apply for these jobs. So on that student jobs on campus platform portal. So yeah, so instead of students going and working in the cafes or restaurants and earning minimum wage, they can go for these part-time jobs working in an office setting and earn a much higher hourly rate. So again, we've got these sorts of opportunities here at ACU. Moving along, we also have a service called Connect to Uni. So Connect to Uni mainly focuses on the students' transition, particularly for the commencing students. So for example, for all of our undergraduate newly commencing students, they have access to student mentors, so current students. So in the case of international students, they'll have dedicated student mentors who are seniors, obviously, third year or final year students at AC who are also international students themselves. So they can kind of go through, um, you know, with the student what it's like being an international student or what's it like being an international student at ACU and help the students to adjust and to get used to, living in a new city by themselves or used to studying in a university or as an international student. So they know what the challenges are, what the issues are. They can give tips and advice for the newly commencing international students. So it's a really, really valuable advice and information that they can pass on to these new students. So we have these sorts of programs as part of Connect to Uni. Other more simple things would be like Connect to Uni, they would host several social activities and functions throughout the year. For example, they might organize, good activities, excursions to go somewhere, or they might have, a lot of it does involve food. So, a couple of times during the semester, they might have food parties where they might have certain cuisines, whether it's Japanese, Mexican, different cuisines, or Australian barbecue, where, students can get together, have some nice food, make new friends, make connections. So yeah, so Connect to Uni really looks after all the student transition and also making sure that students are settling in, connecting with friends, with other people on campus, and that they adjust as quickly as possible in terms of integrating into the university life and also student life at ACU. Moving on, student safety is a very, very big issue nowadays. So we provide training or give notice to students or just making sure, that they're aware about safety. Particularly nowadays, a lot of these things like, cyber scams, things like that, where international students are very, very easily targeted. We make sure also we educate our students in terms of their safety, not just in terms of the physical surroundings, but when it comes to things nowadays like scams, through the internet, through the phone calls, things like that. So students are aware, or we keep them up to date if we are conscious that there are particularly things that's happening at the moment. So student safety is again a very, very important and a very big issue nowadays for a lot of students. So we make sure they're up to date, they know how to look after themselves, they have the information, and that they're prepared. Um, Campus ministry is another thing that we have where students can come together, connect, and make new friends around all the different campuses. And lastly, we do have counseling services as well. So we have professional counselors on all the campuses where for students, if they feel they have something that they need to, talk to with a professional counselor, um, then they can do so and make appointments with our professional counselors on the campuses as well. So as you can see, we have a very, very deep and holistic approach towards looking at our students. And that's, again, a service that we proudly provide here at ACU because we make sure that the students, when they come and study ACU, they're well and truly looked after and they have the best experience possible. Accommodation, like I briefly mentioned before, we do have our own accommodation, but only in certain campuses. So in Sydney, in Canberra, and also in Ballarat. We don't have our own accommodation in our Brisbane and Melbourne campuses. So in Brisbane and Melbourne, if students study on these campuses, they want to stay in a student residence or student style, student accommodation type of arrangement, then we do have special arrangement with certain companies like Unilodge, um, an Igloo where ACU students do get a discounted rate. So those are the options there. Otherwise, of course, students can look for private accommodation or private rental. Students are not obliged to stay, in student accommodation. It's up to the student. They still have the option for private rental and private accommodation that can be arranged by themselves. Otherwise, if they are looking for homestay accommodation, particularly if the student is still quite young, it's the first time living alone overseas in Australia, and parents might feel more assured by putting their children or their kids in homestay. We work with the Australian Homestay Network and we can also assist with those arrangements as well if needed. So these are the accommodation options at ACU. Now, for the remainder of the slides, it's mainly going to be focused on some of our pathway options that we have in ACU, and we do have quite a comprehensive range of pathway study options for students. And we're very proud to say with all of our pathway programs that we offer that you can see on this slide, so from foundation studies to diploma to the preparation program, and also including our English language programs, um, these are all 100% owned, managed, and run by ACU. So it's all internal. We do not outsource any of these pathway programs to an external provider. So it's all in-house. So the benefits of that is that when the students, even when they start from any of these pathway courses, they will already be on the ACU campus, getting used to the campus, having access to all the facilities and the services as well on the campus. So it makes that transition much easier when they move into their main degree afterwards as well. So if we start from the foundation studies program, so obviously in general, foundation studies is more for students if they've probably only finished the equivalent of a year 11 in their home country, and then they do not have a year 12 qualification, they can come and take the foundation program study here with us. So for foundation studies program, we offer it in 2 campuses only, so in Melbourne and in North Sydney, and it's generally a March intake. With our foundation program, actually, we do have the option of offering it online as well. So if for some students, the parents, if they want their kids to start from foundation, but they might still want to have them with them at home for that period when they're doing foundation, there is an opportunity to do foundation online and then come to Australia when it's time for them to go into the degree program. So with the foundation program, it can be packaged with any of the bachelor degree courses, even some of the more competitive bachelor degree programs. So in general, the IELTS is minimum 5.5 to start at foundation. But that's for students if they're going into a bachelor degree that requires IELTS 6. But if they're going into a bachelor degree that requires an IELTS of 7, they do need to start with an IELTS of 6 in foundation. So with foundation, generally speaking, when they've finished their foundation program, there are a set of requirements they must fulfill. So depending on the bachelor degree they're going into, they must make sure they meet certain requirements. For example, a certain GPA. They must take certain elective units, or they must excuse me. Sorry, throat got a bit dry. But they must meet those requirements, and as long as they meet those requirements, they can then move straight into the bachelor degree program. So that's how the foundation studies program work. Otherwise, there are certain bachelor degree programs, for example, like nursing, if they want to package a foundation and a bachelor's of nursing, where they are still required to meet the IELTS for that bachelor degree. So for example, for nursing, even though they've completed foundation, they meet all the requirements, the GPA, the elective units, and the score for the English unit, they still must make sure they have the IELTS 7 before they can commence in the Bachelor of Nursing degree program. But nursing is the special exception. For most of the other degree programs, they can move pretty smoothly from foundation into the bachelor degree, provided they meet those requirements. So that's foundation. Moving on. So if students do not meet the IELTS requirements for the course they want to study, most of our programs, they can also choose to package it with an English program, for example, EAP. Of course, the duration they need to study for EAP really depends on their current English score, and then the gap they have between trying to get up to the level they need to go into the course that they want to study. So to give you a rough idea, if it's based on IELTS, if they're half a band, it's about half a band in just one band area. We would recommend 5 weeks duration. But in terms of their overall score, if they're 5 weeks below, we normally recommend 10 weeks. They're one whole band below, then we recommend 20 weeks. So there are options to package English with the main degree program, but there are a few courses where it's not possible. For example, nursing is one, and it's not possible to package it with English because of the nursing requirements. Students must have the IELTS 7 before they start nursing. So, but for most courses, it is possible to package it with English. Moving on, we do have our own tertiary preparation program, Health Science. So for this particular program, it's really more intended for students if they really want to study a bachelor's of nursing, but maybe their academic results is not enough for them to get that direct entry into the bachelor's of nursing, or maybe they really struggle to get the IELTS 7, so they might need a bit more time to work on their IELTS to get it up to IELTS 7. They can start from this tertiary preparation program, Health Science. So with this program, it is 1 year, so 2 semesters, 1 year duration, normally a February intake, but student can start with an IELTS of 6. So they can start with the IELTS of 6, complete this program for 1 year, but it is important to remember before they start the Bachelor's of Nursing, they do have to make sure they obviously successfully finished the TPP program, but they must also get the IELTS 7 as well. So this 1 year, generally speaking, they do not get credit, but from next year in 2025, for those students, if they have already maybe an IELTS 7, so maybe they have the IELTS already for nursing, but they don't have the academic requirements to go directly into nursing, they could actually take one unit, which is the core unit, and then also get that unit transferred over to the bachelor's degree afterwards and get credit for that one unit as well. But if they don't, they'll have to do the 8 units in this tertiary preparation program and then start from first year of the Bachelor of Nursing afterwards. So that's tertiary preparation program. We do have a list of diploma courses available as well. So you can see on the list here, these are the different diploma courses that we have. So with diploma, again, works a bit differently. So it's for those students who maybe do not have the academic score to go directly into the bachelor degree. They finish year 12, but their score unfortunately is not enough to go into the bachelor degree program directly. They could then start from this diploma programs. So with diploma, it's 1 year, and students normally also get 1 year going into the same bachelor degree afterwards. So in terms of the total study duration, there's no difference, compared to those who go straight into the bachelor degree because they'll complete the diploma in 1 year, then they move into the second year of the same bachelor degree program. So we have in biomedical science, business, criminology, education, exercise science, IT, arts, nutrition, visual arts and design, and youth work. So these are the range of diploma courses that we have. Work integrated learning. So this was what I mentioned before regarding placements, internships. So these are all big components in terms of many of the courses that we offer at ACU. For example, if you look at nursing, if you look at education, placements are a big chunk of the course, and it's a compulsory component of the course as well. But at ACU, we make all the necessary arrangements for the placements for all of our students. So the students do not have to worry that they have to look for their own internships, so they have to look for their own placements and take care of that. We do all that for the students. The main priority for the student is, of course, attend these placements that has been set up and make sure they do well and they pass those placement units. Now, the core unit. So something unique about ACU is that for all of our undergraduate students, regardless if they are studying business, law, IT, or even nursing education, for all of our undergraduate students, they do have to take one core unit. So the core unit is basically like an ethics unit. Because at ACU, one thing that we do want to teach our students is ethics, and community. And this unit is basically where the students get to learn um, with regards to this. And hopefully it helps them in their own personal development and personal growth as well. So with this core unit, like I said, all undergraduate students have to do it as part of their course, part of their degree. But they do have the option if they, wish to take this unit in our Rome campus, they can do that. So rather than doing this one unit in their normal semester here in Australia, if they want to, they can actually take this unit in the Rome campus, but it's not going to take them a whole semester. They will do it between their semester breaks, so during the semester holiday, and they'll take it in Rome in a short intensive mode. So they spend about 2 weeks completing this one unit during that time in their semester break. And then at the same time, if they want to travel a little bit in Europe and then come back and then get ready to start a new semester or the next semester. So international students can do this. And also for all students, including international students, if they are approved to go and take this unit overseas, they will also get funding and allowance from the university as well, which they do not need to pay back. They can use that towards their flights, living expenses while they are there. But of course, any kind of additional costs, the students do have to, cover that, like travel and all that. But they do get a funding from the university that can use towards these expenses and these additional costs involved. So that's the core curriculum unit. For us, we are very big on community engagement, and we have many community engagement projects throughout the world. So particularly for students, if they have a passion for the community or they want to be able to have a way to contribute to the community and they want to get involved in some of the projects that we have happening around the world, there are many, many opportunities for that. Like I said, at ACU, we are very big on, students having the opportunity to develop personally, have that growth personally, learn about ethics, but also learning about, what they can do to contribute back to the community, because community is very important for us. And it's important for students to be able to make a contribution back to society, back to the community as well. So we've got these options for our students as well. We're almost towards the end, so I just wanted to show a few testimonials that we have from our students coming from Southeast Asia. So have a few good testimonials, as you can see here. So we have Bridget and also Dr. Sanchez from the Philippines. We have Ruby from Vietnam. Um, Moving on, we do have a lot of student vlogs, well, not vlogs, but articles sharing their experience when they were with ACU. So this slide here, these two are our students from Indonesia. We've got Vincent and Ari. So Vincent studied a Bachelor of Commerce with us, and then he eventually also continued to do an MBA program. He's now in a leadership or management position, working for one of the big four banks in Australia. Particular focus is on commercial loans, so he's done really well for himself. So it's a quite an interesting article there about him and his experience with ACU. The second one with Ari, so he studied a Master's of Teaching secondary with us, and he was in such high demand that he even got offered a job at a school even before he finished his teaching degree. So, he's done very well for himself, managed to land a job even before he had finished his qualifications. So these are some of the experiences that our students have. And these are some of the very proud examples that we have of our students where they've worked hard. They've studied a really valuable degree that has led them to careers here in Australia. I've got two more here to share with you. So we've got Tepi. She's a Cambodian student, and we're very proud to say, so she studied here in Melbourne. She actually received an International Student Award from the Victorian State Government for the work that she has done as an international student. So she studied public health, and then she did a lot of work, particularly during the COVID period, in terms of support for the community. So she works in public health, in terms of raising awareness, a lot of community work. So she's been recognized with the International Student Award. Actually, this was last year by the Victorian government. So a very, very proud student that we have here at ACU. And also another one is with An. He is a Vietnamese student who studied nursing and is currently working in regional Victoria, in Ballarat. So he did his nursing course in Ballarat and then ended up working, well, finished the course, got his nursing registration, and now works as a registered nurse in Ballarat. So yeah, so check out our international blog section of the ACU website. Some really interesting articles there where our students share, their experiences with ACU and what they've gone on to achieve after they've finished their studies at ACU or even during their studies at ACU. So successful students, that's what we're all about. So just to wrap things up, oops, sorry. I'll play a video. Hopefully this works, but just a quick video of ACU. So let's see. Hopefully it works. No. Maybe do I have to? Okay. Well, maybe what I might do is when we wrap up, I'll find this video on YouTube and then I can share again and play it again then. Because I'm not sure why it's not playing here. But anyway, I will wrap it up for now. So feel free again to scan the QR codes here on this slide. This is the last slide. So again, you're going to follow us on any of the social media platforms. Scan that QR code. Otherwise, if you want to have access to our course guide, scan the QR code for our digital course guide there as well. Okay, and that's the end of the presentation. So look, I really appreciate your attention, and thank you so much. And looking forward to answering any questions that you have. All right, thanks, Tim. Back to you.
Thanks, Desmond. But I think we do have some questions in the Q&A box template here. Which I
Mm-hmm.
let's see if you guys have an English requirement. Well, we definitely do. Then I think it's just that you have an English requirement for the applications and you offer supporting intensive English courses, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the English, the EAP, was it just now? So yeah. Just to follow up on the question, right?
Yes.
Do you also, let's say, if for
Mm-hmm.
students, if they haven't taken like an English test yet, do you offer, like, let's say, an English,
Yes.
English placement that allows these ACU to know that how
Mm-hmm.
many weeks will the student require to study?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We used to, but just with all the changes kind of this year with GS and all that, we don't offer like a placement test anymore. So generally speaking, what we would prefer is for students to at least, just go and take an IELTS or PTO or something, have a score. And then based on that score, we can give a recommendation, what's the best way forward to kind of package it. with the EAP program. And to be honest, at the end of the day, if a student go and take an IELTS or PTE, it is a much more comprehensive test. So in terms of the result that they get, it certainly paints a better picture in terms of where the student are, at the moment in terms of their proficiency. So yeah, so we used to have it, but we don't do it anymore. But the recommendation is here, look, ideally the student just go and take an IELTS or PTE, have a formal assessment, and then we can definitely, with that score they have, then provide a recommendation.
Fantastic. Thank you. There's next
Mm,
question here. Can you
mm.
discuss the expenses for students, let's say if they're interested to study in Italy?
Okay, right, okay. Um, Look, the unit itself would probably, I think, is about $3,000 dollars, but with Italy because we have our own campus. So basically, the fee there would cover, the unit, um, the accommodation, and accommodation does provide food as well. So it's pretty much all inclusive. Um, so but of course, yes, that is the price that they have to pay. I think in terms of the allowance that they get from the university, I think it's up to about $500. So obviously it doesn't cover the whole expense that they have to pay, but at least it's something that they can use at least maybe to cover some of their flight tickets or some of their living expenses whilst they are there. So yeah, so they're not there for a long period of time, like I said, it becomes like a condensed unit that they take across about 2 weeks. So they're only there for about 2 weeks, really. And then after that, a lot of the students, of course, take the opportunity to travel a little bit around Europe since they're already there. And then they come back home and prepare and start the next semester.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. The intakes for ACU, if I'm not mistaken, the main one is through February and July, right? I'm just a little bit
Yep.
curious. Do you have any
Mm,
like like smaller intake, example like November, October, like
mhm,
summer intakes, example?
mhm, mm. Yeah, no, look, for us, generally speaking, for our degree programs, it's still mainly either February or July, or some courses, both February and July intake. So it's more the traditional intake semesters, because we don't really offer kind of like units or courses in a trimester type model. So still, generally speaking, mainly, February, July are the main intakes. But of course, if it comes to some of the pathway programs like English or something like that, then of course it's different intakes. But for the main degree courses, still February and July.
Mm, well noted on that,
Mm,
February and July.
hmm
Um,
hmm
I think in terms, well, there is asking about the overall requirement. I
mm.
think most of the requirements can be listed on the course program website.
Yeah, look, the requirements obviously are different from country to country. But yeah, if you look on our website, we do have a section there in terms of like, the minimum academic entry requirements for all the different countries, and whether it's to go to start from foundation, to start from diploma, or directly for the bachelor degree. We do have that information there on the website. But if you look at the course information website, it does kind of, give you some of the generic information, at least anyway.
Because I also agree that because actually when I
Mm,
looked at the ACU course website, I do notice that actually
mm,
your program fees is actually very, very clear and also mentions about
mhm,
the different the different campuses that are available with that particular program, which is actually
mm.
very cool.
Yep,
Okay. And next
yep.
very interesting question. Do you still accept students under 18, maybe specifically for the foundation?
hmm Good question. Yes. So for foundation, students have to be minimum 17 um, to commence foundation. So yes, so for foundation, as long as they're at least 17, they can start foundation. So yeah, so under 18. Look, for degree programs, under 18, generally speaking, no, for the degree program. But they could be cases where, for example, the student is very close to turning 18 after they commence their study with us. Those cases we could consider, or otherwise, there has to be some type of, or the student need to have some type of arrangement in place, whether it be, in terms of guardianship arrangements, whether one of the parents might be here with them, or they have older siblings that are here, that can be their guardian, um, or a direct, relative, like a direct uncle, direct auntie, that they can live with and be their guardian. So those type of arrangements they must have in place. So yeah, so that's something to consider.
That's very good. Would that be also included, like, there's this some students they stay under the Australian homestay network. Would that be also be under? Would that be
Hmm.
also be?
Yep, that will only be for our foundation students. So basically, for example, if a student comes and starts from foundation with us and they're still not yet 18, so under 18, but at least already 17, then if they don't have anyone to come and stay with them until they turn 18, then homestay, yes, that's where we work with AHN. They have particular homestay hosts who can be looking after or be guardians of these under 18 students, but that we only have for those who will be starting from foundation.
Okay,
Yep.
so all right, this is actually a bit of a
Mm.
sensitive question, but I think we can all like maybe have a discussion, a very short one
Yep.
about it. That do
Yep.
you still
Yep. Yep.
accept applications? Do you still accept applications from students with visa refusal histories?
Yep. Yep. Again, good question. Look, that I would say we don't have a blanket approach. We would have to look at a case by case, but certainly factors like, how recent was the refusal? Um, were there any particular reasons for the refusal? These sorts of things we would have to take into consideration. And also maybe look, yes, if the student did have a refusal once, but since then, have they been able to get a visa again? Right. Um, so yeah, so case by case, we have to look at a case by case. We have to look at the student's overall profile. Um, and then make a decision based on that. So yeah, hard to give a definitive answer, but we look at it case by case.
All right, so it's still a case by case on the application. So
Mm,
it's
mm,
never a yes or no answer. I do feel that ACU is
mm,
still welcoming applications for still welcoming application. That's actually very good to hear.
mm.
Yeah.
Still
So
case
I
by
think
case, yeah.
yeah, because the case good. Um, I think another one that will be quite. I think like you're asking what popular programs, but I do feel like the popular
Hmm.
ones could be from nursing to teaching. But how about
Yes,
anything that maybe
yes.
students might have some interest as well?
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, so definitely, like Tim, you said, nursing and education in general, that's what most students choose to come and study here with us at ACU. But look, other popular courses, for example, IT, that's also quite popular with our international students. And also, I'm seeing like increasing trend in students interested in programs like biomedical science, nutrition science, or some of the other health science related courses that's gaining interest as well. Um, so yeah, but in general, I would say, a lot of students, if they choose to study a course at ACU, they're looking or they're already considering what are the possible, career outcomes afterwards, um, so usually whatever there's a demand for certain jobs or certain professions, I think that drives a lot for the students and their decision in terms of what course they want to study.
No, 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 thanks, Justin. I think I'm so sorry that we unfortunately
Mm,
will have to cut this webinar short already. But I think we'll have time for one more question. How much is
yep.
roughly the
Hmm.
the the deposit students will require to pay if you want to secure a place? They'll be paying a deposit so that
Hmm.
the university can issue a COE.
Yep. 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 So normally it is the first semester's tuition fee. So basically, they pay that as their deposit that will secure their spot, and then we can issue the COE. And then once they commence their course, that deposit is applied to their first semester's tuition fee, but the standard is pretty much the first semester's tuition fee.
Fantastic. Okay,
Mm,
everyone. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Jasmine. This is a very insightful information about ACU. But everyone,
mm.
if you, I do apologize if to cut this short, but let's say if you have any more additional questions, please do feel free to reach out to US Education, to your respective person in charge. And great. Okay, great. Right. Well, thank you so much for everyone for coming. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Tim. Thanks,
Thank
Jackie.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good
Bye
day.
bye.
Thank you. Thank you.